Trump's Easter brunch speech is one of the most revealing speeches in his presidency. There isn't one group of people who wasn't disparaged, dehumanized, mocked, or dismissed. And this is an important conversation for the deconstructing Christian because this is all about Christianity. Even Caroline Leavitt wasn't safe during that speech. The woman, he said, whose lips move like a machine gun. He said that Caroline was doing a poor job because of the 93 to 97% negative media coverage that he's receiving. During that speech, Trump said the government is not going to pay for Medicaid, Medicare, child care, and its only job is to fund the military. If that isn't terrifying enough, this speech was openly racist, homophobic, transphobic, xenophobic, and ableist. If I can ever figure out how to do a reaction video, this is the video that I will do it to. That's how important I think this speech is. But for today, I want to focus on this because what is clear now is that your vote for Trump will not save you, even if you are white, but also even if you're a Christian. Because Donald Trump is the front man for a cabal of Christians whose beliefs are so extremist and radicalized that having faith in Jesus or believing the Bible is inerrant, infallible, all the good things that Christians are taught to believe if they want to be viewed as the good Christian on that side of Christianity, none of that is enough. This wasn't just one of his run-of-the-mill, awkward, rambling speeches that's full of ego and nonsense. This speech was held in a room filled with pastors who sat there and absorbed everything he said as if it was normal. These are the pastors who believe that Project 2025 is the gateway to end times. These are the pastors who believe that your grandmother should not receive her Medicare. Look at the through line to what Senator Tommy Tuberville said in 2024 when he said that Social Security was all a scam. We don't have any of your money. We're dead broke. Now here in 2026, Donald Trump openly states that it is not possible for the U.S. to pay for Medicare, Medicaid, and daycare and to shift all the federal funding to military protection. I encourage you to go watch that video, but what I want to focus on today is what he said about Christianity and religion. Because Trump, as the front man for this cabal of Republican Christians, said at this Easter brunch that pilgrims laid the foundation for America's motto, "In God We Trust." This phrase was elevated to importance in the 1950s during the Cold War when the United States was trying to define itself against communism. In that same decade is when we got the phrase "under God" added to the Pledge of Allegiance. And for those of you who were raised in this Christianity, this kind of rhetoric may feel familiar because we were taught versions of this all the time. We were taught to see America as somehow specially anointed, specially protected, and specially chosen by God. That's all a myth. And that mythology is dangerous because once you convince people that a nation is chosen by God, then anything done in the name of saving that nation starts to feel holy. Later in that speech, he said that to be a great nation, you have to have religion, you have to have God. That's why this Easter we're bringing back religion to America. That line is deceiving because notice what he's doing here. He's using the word religion, which on the surface sounds broad and inclusive as if he is talking about all faith traditions, but he is clearly not doing that. He means Christianity, and more specifically, the kind of Christianity that blesses power and never interrupts the lineage of Christian patriarchy, meaning the white Christian man at the top of the power structure. That is one of the oldest habits in dominant American Christianity. Christians will say religion when what they really mean is their religion. They mean their version of God, their moral framework, their assumed authority over public life. But this country is not made up of one religion. There are Muslims, Jews, Buddhists, Hindus, Sikhs, pagans, indigenous spiritual traditions, humanists, atheists, agnostics, spiritual people with no religious affiliation, and countless others who are every bit as American as the people in that room hearing that Easter brunch speech. But let's be clear, not all Christians were represented in that room either, because if your Christianity laughs at xenophobic jokes and stays quiet when transphobic and homophobic rhetoric is being tossed around and claps while the president mocks his political opponents and says nothing while he casually hints at policy choices that would devastate vulnerable people, then what is being represented in that room is not religion. It is state-approved, high-controlled, misogynistic, sexist, ableist, xenophobic, homophobic, transphobic, white supremacist Christianity. This is where I need Christians, especially those still inside institutional church culture, to stop pretending this is just distasteful or tacky. This is not merely cringe or offensive. This is how authoritarianism is hiding in plain sight. The fact that he then went into the myth about Christmas at an Easter brunch is laughable. He says that he brought back Christmas, and that is an outrageous lie. American life is already built around Christian norms and Christian holidays. School calendars, businesses center Christmas commerce for months around Christmas. Decorations, music, pageantry, advertising, movies, church events, family traditions, all of it is part of our natural rhythm. So no, Christianity was not being persecuted because someone now says happy holidays. What was happening was that some institutions were trying, however imperfectly, to acknowledge that other people exist too. But for dominant Christianity, even the slightest move toward inclusion often gets reframed as persecution. That is an important thing for people deconstructing to understand, because many of us were raised in environments where we were taught that not being centered was the same thing as being oppressed. We were taught to interpret scooching over and acceptance of other beliefs as hostility. We were taught to feel like it was an attack to include other beliefs and other people's cultures. We were taught to interpret that shared space was somehow compromising our spirituality. And that is exactly how Christian nationalism keeps people emotionally activated. It convinces them that they are under siege even while they remain the dominant force in the room. That is why this war on Christmas narrative was really never about Christmas. It was about teaching Christians to feel threatened anytime they were asked to share space with anyone else. But Trump still wasn't done. Then we get to the line, "Now woke is gone." That line is not just ignorant, it's racist, because the word woke did not originate as some empty internet insult. It came out of Black American consciousness, Black resistance, Black survival, and Black truth-telling. It's language rooted in awareness to teach about injustice and systemic oppression. Being woke is about understanding what this country has done and continues to do to Black people. And like so much that comes out of marginalized communities, it was taken, it was distorted and mocked and weaponized once white Christian patriarchy realized it had power. So when Trump says woke is gone, he is celebrating the rejection of this moment of moral accountability. He is celebrating a culture where people can stop caring about racism, stop caring about exclusion, stop caring about marginalized people, and then calling that freedom. That is why this speech is so terrifying and why it matters so much, because he wasn't just rambling. It is a sermon of Christian nationalist mythology, where they rewrite the past, claim God for the nation, assume that their version of Christianity is the default, pretend that they're persecuted, and mock any language that is dismantling systems of oppression, and then make cruelty feel righteous. This is why so many of us who were raised in Christianity cannot immediately recognize what is happening, because this language doesn't always come in the form of hate. It comes wrapped in patriotism, nostalgia, humor, applause, Easter brunches, and words like faith, values, and religion. But underneath it, it's the same old lie that America belongs to a certain type of Christian, and everyone else is tolerated at best, but disposable at worst. My friends, this is not faith. This is not holiness. This is not leadership that is proving it is spiritual. This is power. Hijacking spirituality and holding it hostage for a small percentage of Christians who celebrated the toxicity spewed from Trump's mouth in a speech to celebrate Easter. And many of us know how dangerous that is, because we lived under it, we believed it, and we may have been harmed by it, but we also celebrated it and protected it until we woke up and began to walk out of it. Now, if you're deconstructing and you find this content helpful, be sure to subscribe to my writings on Substack and my YouTube channel so you can be notified when my latest teachings become available.